Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reacted angrily to an announcement from the International Criminal Court that it's seeking an arrest warrant against him. The ICC's chief prosecutor Karim Khan said there were reasonable grounds to believe that Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant bore criminal responsibility for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. But the court is also looking into the possibility of issuing arrest warrants for 3 senior Hamas leaders on similar charges.
כראש ממשלת ישראל, אני דוחה בשאט נפש את ההשוואה של התובע בהאג בין ישראל הדמוקרטית לבין רבי המרצחים של החמאס. זה עיוות מוחלט של המציאות.
In a written statement, US President Joe Biden called the decision outrageous and said there was no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. The State Department said the ICC has no jurisdiction to investigate this case, as Israel is not a signatory to the Rome Statute that founded the court.
This decision does nothing to help and could jeopardize ongoing efforts to reach a ceasefire agreement that would get hostages out of Gaza and surge humanitarian assistance in.
There was a mixed reaction to the news on the streets of Tel Aviv, the city that's seen weeks of mass protests demanding the Netanyahu administration do more to secure the release of the hostages still being held in Gaza.
אני לא מבינה באיזה עולם אנחנו חיים שבו יש סימטריה בין ראשי ארגון טרור שביצעו טבח המוני לבין ראשי מדינה שנבחרו בדרך דמוקרטית.
And there was a muted response to the ICC announcement among Palestinians in central Gaza.
احنا بدنا قرارات دولية حاسمة لتحسم الأمور هذا لأنه احنا قاعدين بنروح ضحايا واحنا ملناش دعوة لا في إسرائيل ولا في حماس.
ICC judges will now examine the evidence and decide whether arrest warrants for the Israeli and Hamas leadership can be issued.
Nine defendants are going on trial in Frankfurt, Germany, over an alleged far-right attempt to forcibly overthrow the government. The case shocked the country back in 2022. Around 260 witnesses are supposed to attend. The large number of defendants, lawyers and media dealing with the case are being held in a courthouse built specifically for this trial.
Wir verfügen nicht über einen Saal, der von den Sicherheitsvorkehrungen, die erforderlich sind, und auch von der Personengröße geeignet gewesen wäre, dieses Verfahren angemessen durchzuführen. Das Verfahren hat eine Größenordnung, die das Oberlandesgericht bislang noch nie hatte. Wir haben ein Verfahren mit 9 Angeklagten, die zurzeit 25 Verteidiger haben. Wir haben auch einen Umfang der Anklageschrift, der über das, was wir bislang kennen, hinausgeht.
Defendants include Heinrich XIII, Prince Royce, whom the group allegedly planned to install as Germany's provisional new leader. There's also a judge and former lawmaker with the far-right AfD party, as well as ex-German military officers. Most of them have been charged with belonging to a terrorist organization. The trial, starting on Tuesday, is the second of 3 major proceedings into the so-called Reichsbürgers, people who allegedly don't recognize the Federal Republic of Germany. Another trial began in Stuttgart in April, while a third one is expected to start in Munich in June.
A Greek judge has dismissed a high-profile case against 9 men who stood accused of commandeering an ocean trawler that led to the deaths of hundreds of migrants. Human rights activists applauded the decision in the Kalamata courtroom. Police in riot gear clashed with protesters earlier that day in the southern Greek city. There were no reports of serious injuries outside the courthouse, but at least 2 people were detained. Speaking through an interpreter in Athens, one survivor blamed the Greek authorities for the atrocity, an accusation the government rejects.
Ήμασταν 5 μέρες μέσα σε θάλασσα. Χλασμένο ήταν, αλλά δεν πνιγήκαμε. Αλλά μόλις έβαλε αυτό το σκηνή, τότε εμείς πήγαμε κάτω από θάλασσα.
Dozens of people gathered in the capital to protest the government's migration policies, something that's proving to be a hot topic ahead of the EU elections.
Young people in New Caledonia's capital have begun clearing up after a week of violent unrest. More police officers have arrived in Nouméa from France. But the airport remains closed, stranding tourists, and French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal warned we are still away off a return to normal. Protests broke out last week over changes to local elections rules, which indigenous groups say will dilute their political influence. A state of emergency has been declared in Russia's far eastern Yakutia region due to flooding. According to state media, 16 settlements were flooded within several hours on Sunday. The emergency ministry said in a statement that more than 450 people had to move to temporary accommodation centres. Yakutia is the coldest place on Earth with a significant population and for most of the year is covered in snow, but it often floods when warmer weather causes snowmelt.
Spain's Popular Party presented its policy platform for the upcoming EU elections and are using it to critique Federal Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's government.
Hemos liderado en Europa la defensa del Estado de Derecho y la denuncia permanente de la infame amnistía de Sánchez y Puigdemont.
The opposition is targeting democracy, economy, social policies and geopolitical leadership and will attempt to garner younger voter support.
Trabajamos en una propuesta para eximirles del pago de impuestos durante los primeros años de su carrera profesional.
Party leader Fuejo promised to make this one of the electoral campaign's central points, but noted the challenges.
A veces tengo la impresión de que un documento como este queda relegado por la disputa, por el regate político, por el humo.
It comes after far-right party Vox drew thousands of attendees at a rally in the capital, attended by Argentinian President Javier Milei. A row between the countries sparked by comments made by Milei threatened to overshadow the start of Spain's EU election campaign.
Me parece lamentable que los intereses de 48 millones de españoles y 46 millones de argentinos estén secuestrados por una forma de hacer política.
The party leader advocated for calm amid barbs traded between the leaders' governments. Support for the Popular Party at the ballot box in June.
Pese a las palabras de Alberto Núñez Feijóo aquí en la presentación del programa electoral del PP, la crisis diplomática entre España y Argentina sitúa el relato justo donde quieren sus adversarios políticos. Por un lado, la demostración de fuerza de Vox en su mitin del fin de semana revela que no renuncia a disputar al PP la bandera del antisanchismo y Sánchez, por su parte, consigue situar al PSOE como el muro contra lo que él llama la internacional ultraderechista, porque más allá de los programas políticos, las campañas electorales siempre marcan los tiempos. Todos saben cómo empieza, pero nadie sabe cómo acaban. En Madrid, Jaime Velázquez, Euronews.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has offered his government's apologies to the victims of a scandal involving tainted blood. An inquiry found that the Public Health Service knowingly exposed tens of thousands of patients to deadly infections through contaminated blood and hid the truth for decades. Sunak told the House of Commons that it was a day of shame for the country. Around 3,000 people are believed to have died after receiving blood tainted with HIV or hepatitis in the 1970s to the 1990s.
A hero for many, a criminal for others, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been given right to appeal his extradition to the US. Hundreds of supporters anxiously awaited the decision outside London's Royal Court of Justice on Monday. Assange's wife Stella was among the crowds and released a statement after the verdict.
The judges reached the right decision. We spent a long time hearing the United States putting lipstick on a pig, but the judges did not buy it. As a family, we're relieved. But how long can this go on? The United States should read the situation and drop this case now. Now is the moment to do it. Just abandon this shameful attack on journalists, on the press and the public that has been going on for 14 years.
Monday's decision is likely to drag out further what has already been a long legal saga. Julian Assange, a 52-year-old Australian computer expert, faces up to 175 years in prison, his lawyer said. He got indicted on 17 espionage charges and one charge of computer misuse over the publication of thousands of classified US documents almost 15 years ago. American authorities say Assange didn't just gather information for journalism purposes, but attempted to solicit, steal, and indiscriminately publish classified government documents. US President Joe Biden, however, last month said he's considering a request from Australia to drop the case and let Assange return to his home country.
Turkey's president has slammed the Eurovision Song Contest as a threat to traditional family values and of allegedly encouraging gender neutralisation. His remarks were an apparent reference to Swiss singer Nemo, who won this year's contest with The Code, a song about their journey towards a non-gender identity. Turkey withdrew from Eurovision in 2013, ostensibly over changes to the voting system, and haven't appeared or broadcast the contest since.
Euronews. The news